No longer dependent on OPEC. This is Bill Moist, MSCPA. As a way of introduction, the 1973-1974 OPEC oil embargo in the United States and a few of its allies caused a major spike in oil prices, inflation, high unemployment, shortage of gasoline resulting in long lines at the service station. I was a young driver then, and I remember going to the large truck stop on the interstate, and it was closed because it ran out of oil, ran out of gas. But the pledge of nearly every U.S. president since Richard Nixon has been U.S. energy independence. Well, let's just take a look briefly at some of the articles that we've discussed in the oilandgasinsider.com. We'll just briefly look at a few of the topics we've discussed, and I'll let you make your own conclusion as to whether or not we are dependent on OPEC anymore. Number one, the Texas oil and gas production is an expansion cycle. That's a recent article. 2, why billions are pouring into U.S. shale. A private equity firm in the first quarter announced they'd raised $19.8 billion for U.S. oil ventures. You might ask, why the big push for new U.S. oil ventures when the price of oil has been flat around $50? Well, the reason is, God bless the entrepreneurs in the oil patch. The producers have slashed the price of pumping oil by almost half over the last 2 years, making production profitable again. 3, OPEC's on the brink of the collapse. That was the question we raised. It might be. It's lasted decades longer than any other cartel. 4, Russia was cutting its production as U.S. shale production escalates. 5, dumping billions in Canadian assets for Permian Basin. Marathon acquired a 70,000-acre tract in the Permian and another 51,500 acres for $1.4 billion. 6, why major oil company goes big on U.S. shale. This is Exxon Mobil. You know, the majors had pretty much abandoned the United States for new production for several decades, but now they're coming back. That's a key indicator. They wanted production investment that returned their capital more quickly than those large offshore projects they've had in the past, and some of the other more expensive projects. 7, Texas 5th straight double-digit jump in oil rigs count. That was as of February this year, February 2017. 8, nearly $1 trillion worth of oil found in Texas, the largest discovery ever in the United States. Think about that, $1 trillion worth of oil. That was discovered in West Texas, the Wolf Creek area. 9, Permian Basin producing oil and gas since 1920. That's a big deal because the infrastructure is well developed that reduces costs for the producers. And if it's true that the largest deposit ever has been discovered in the United States in the Permian, we're going to see lots of production that continue to go out there. So in conclusion, the United States did oust Saudi Arabia as the world's largest oil producer back in May of 2016. However, Saudi Arabia regained that title 4 months later. But just as important, the United States holds 264 billion barrels of oil, of which half is in the shale. And we didn't know about shale but a few years ago. This total exceeds both Russia and Saudi Arabia. So to conclude, the United States is no longer dependent on oil. To conclude that the United States is no longer dependent on OPEC may be finally true after 45 years of presidents pledging to make the United States energy independent. This is Bill Moist, MSCPA. Until next time.